people that are really into playing video games use a term called immersion. And they use it to describe when the latest, best computer hardware is out there and software engines, physics, and they use immersion to describe how much you disappear into that virtual world, how much it really makes you feel that you're not in the real world but in this other world, the world of the game. And so when they have, you know, new capabilities where cloth in that other world looks even that much more real than it did a year before, they talk about how you know, the immersion of this new software, it is that much better at bringing the participant into that virtual world. Writers are trying to do very much the same thing. Now, their virtual canvas is imagination, the imagination of the reader, and what they use is the written word. And they're aiming for the immersion of the reader as much as game creators are aiming for ultimately the full immersion of the gamers. And one thing that writers rely on for their type of virtual reality is the subconscious. And a way to increase the immersion effect for your readers, one way, is to start paying very close attention to past, present, and future tense. When you write your story, decide ahead of time what tense you're writing in. Are you writing about something that happened? As an example, the other day there was a great storm, floodwaters washed down the street, my car was washed away. That is taking place in the past. Present tense would be, there is a great storm, I see the floodwaters filling the streets, my car is being washed away. Future tense is, there's going to be a great storm, I just know that there are going to be floodwaters that will wash down the street and wash my car away. So, and the importance of becoming aware of what tense you're working in all the time is then you can begin to use it as an immersion tool. And I'll give you examples of this. Before I get into how you can use past, present, or future tense as immersion tools, I want to convey that becoming aware of what tense you're writing in is very important. Subconsciously, if you're consistently writing in the past tense, then subconsciously the reader is more likely to forget that they're reading and feel that they're immersed in the story. It transports them into the story. But if there's inconsistencies, if the story is being told in past tense and then for no effective reason it switches to future, back and forth inconsistently, this interrupts the reader and it takes them out of the story a little bit. It reduces the immersion effect and it makes them more aware that they're reading, and it becomes more of a task of reading and less of this transportation into the story. You do not always have to stay in past, present, or future tense, but it is important to be aware of which one you're writing in, and for the most part stay in the one you choose. As a writer, if you are very aware of what past, present, or future tense, which tense you are writing in, you can begin to do subtle things in your writing to pull your reader that much more into the story. I write in present tense, and I pretty much always have written in present tense. So the examples I'm giving you are tricks I've learned while writing in the present tense. When I'm writing a scene that involves a lot of action, I'm very concerned with the timing of the writing. I don't want to bog the writing down with a lot of explanatory phrases. I want to have it happen as much in real time as possible and seem to happen quickly, and the use of past, future, or present tense becomes very effective for this sort of writing. So I have, as an example, I have an antagonist, and I'm writing in present tense. So my antagonist is running, and she thinks, so in present tense, she runs past a police officer. He was going to pull a knife on me. I'm sorry, I'm making this up as I go along. He was going to pull a knife on me. He could have had a gun. He was going to blow up that car. So this is an example of writing in past tense when I have already chosen ahead of time to write in present tense. But what I am doing is, when I am writing the thoughts that a character is having in the present moment, these are thoughts in past tense. These are thoughts that she's having about something that just happened. So I'm writing in present tense, but when I'm writing about what the antagonist is thinking about what has just happened, I write in past tense. And I don't need to explain each time that she thinks about what just happened. The reader gets it, and it happens subconsciously, and this is a way of pulling the reader more into the story, because they feel like they're more in the head of the antagonist. They feel like they're thinking what the antagonist is thinking, and they're having the experience that the antagonist is having. So by staying consistently in present tense, I can use the technique of writing in past tense to have the reflective thoughts of the antagonist feel more real to the reader. And I can apply this to future tense too. Whatever my antagonist is anticipating, whatever they are worried will happen or think is happening. So in present tense, she runs to the end of the block. She looks left. She sees a tank driving down the road. It could fire missiles. It could radio the satellite. It's going to turn around and go the other way. It won't see me. I'm writing in future tense. I'm writing about something I'm writing about things that haven't happened yet but will happen. And the reader, without me needing to explain, the reader subconsciously knows that this is what the antagonist is thinking will happen. So, and it happens subconsciously. So the reader is not aware that without needing to have it explained to them each time, they know that these are the thoughts of the antagonist, and that way the story feels more real to them. This is a way of making your writing more immersive. Again, this is very basic writing skills. To be a better writer, always gain an awareness through practice of decide ahead of time if you're going to write in future, present, or past tense, and stick to it and stay consistent. Another way that you can use past, future, or present tense to enhance your story. Now, if you're not telling a story that starts at the beginning and ends when the clock gets to a certain point, that doesn't follow one timeline, but could be happening in one time, could be happening in the 1940s, then it'll jump ahead to 2012, then it'll jump back to, 200 BC, and then it'll jump back to the 1940s again. As a way, you could use it to where you could have the 1940s be written in present tense. You could have the parts of the story that happened in the future, write that in future tense, and the parts that happen 200 BC, you could write that in past tense. And this would be a good way to subconsciously clue your reader into what time period the story is being written in. So it's another way of influencing your reader without bogging the writing down with a bunch of explanatory writing. Another way that another technique I've seen is where it's a futuristic story, but it's told in past tense because they want to have that antiquity effect. They want to make it seem like it takes place centuries from now, but that it's being viewed even as something that has happened a long time ago. And you can enhance that feeling by writing in past tense to make it seem even that much more ancient. If you've ever heard a song that you're listening to the song and it's going along, and then something in the underlying structure begins to change, and you feel like you feel like you're being transported, and the song is becoming a totally different song, and yet remaining the same song. You can do a similar effect with tense. You could have the first half of the story take place in the past, take place in past tense, and then the antagonist wakes up and all of a sudden it is in present tense, and there's a feeling of transport. There's a feeling of transformation, and it is the same story, but it has been changed, and it's launched in a whole new direction. Often when there is a great comedian, it's said that they have great timing, they have great delivery. And so comedians rely very much on that. Writers do too, and filmmakers, and musicians, and what is this elusive timing? Well, being aware of past, present, and future tense is an essential part of having great timing as a writer. As an exercise, write a one-page story in past tense, and the next day write another new one-page story in present tense, and on the third day write another one-page story in future tense, and practice and get used to writing in these different tenses, and about being very clear about which one you're going to write in. You can tell what someone is about to do by the strategy, the way they get set up. If someone opens up their trunk and takes out a jack and a tire iron, you can see that the strategy, what they're getting prepared to do, is change the tire. Before you write a story, if you write down, this will be present tense, third person, you're effectively getting everything set up. You're working out the strategy you're going to use for the story you're going to write. Just because the strategy you're going to use is as simple as I'm going to write my story in future tense, or I'm going to write my story in present tense, it does not mean that you don't have a strategy. It means that you're working with a very minimalistic strategy and still can be as effective as a more elaborate strategy. I hope this video was helpful to you. I hope this video is helpful to you. I hope this video will be helpful to you. If you want me to produce more of these, please hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment. If you have something to say about past, future, and present tense, please feel free to leave a comment for other viewers to read. And also, please, if you have time, visit my website, solomation.com, to have a look at the story I'm working on called Terrible Immunity, and I'm in the process of posting episodes there, an illustrated and narrated storytelling. Again, thank you very much. I hope your writing goes great and that you find yourself creating wonderful stories, and have a good day.